Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say a couple things. One is that as a writer, I want to give you some tips that I've learned. One is that when you write with somebody, pick out somebody that you know that you want to do business with, because this is a business. You didn't come here to just be a writer. You came here to be somebody. You came here to get, to earn a living writing. And so when you write with somebody, make sure that you pick out a writer or co-writer that you want to do business with. The other is, I believe that I'm the only one that does this in Nashville, but I record every session that I write, from Craig Wiseman to Blake Shelton to the new person down the block. If I write with you, I record the whole session. I also get information up front. When I write with a publisher, like for instance, I just wrote down at a publishing company with a writer that writes for that company, they handed me a piece of paper and I had to fill out my information, because if we get a cut or we're going to go into demo, they want to know how to get a hold of me. Well, I do the same thing, but being dyslexic, I do it on audio, and I do it with every one of my songs. So, and I do it for 3 reasons. One is, and I record the whole session for 3 reasons. One is copyright purposes. 2 is everything I'm doing, I'm willing to my family in years to come. My grandson's grandson can pull up and find out how I wrote that song last week. And the other is, we might say something in the session that we need to go back to, so we can always do that. I can't tell you how many people said, I wish I did that because we had a great idea or a great melody and we just totally forgot it. Mm-hmm. And 9 times out of 10, before you get even done with the first verse and second chorus, you go, what's the melody of the first verse? So you always have that to fall back on. But what you need to do is you say this. For instance, if I'm writing with Mark Barnowski here, or Mark Edwards, whichever you want to prefer, I do, this is James Breedwell, and you would go,
this is Mark Barnowski or Mark Edwards?
Yes. And the date is, and my publishing information is, that's a Hook Music Publishing affiliated with ASCAP.
Toe Capper Music with ASCAP.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My address, and I give them my address, my telephone number. I give them my birth date, because you give the birth date because when you copyright a song, they're going to ask you for the birth date of the copyright writer. So I give the birth date. Also, any particulars. If I'm on Facebook, if MySpace, if I have a web page, any way to get a hold of me in years to come. I also, if I have a co-pub deal or I have a publishing deal, I put their information down too. And the other thing is that you want to make sure that you do that, because in years to come, you will forget who these people are. I've written with over 1,500 writers, producers, publishers, engineers. I can pull back the very first time I wrote with somebody to the guy I wrote last week. And make a folder. Make a folder on your hard drive. Hard drives are so big now, you can do this. Make a folder on every one of your artists. Then put the song, drag the song in. And then put the lyric sheet, I put an X and then song, that means info for the song. And then I put the song, and then I put the lyric sheet, and I have S, and that means for the whole session. Every one of my folders has that. Then you can always go back to that. The other thing is, when you do something like that, you want to make sure that you, if you wrote with this guy on this date last year, you want to grab that song and put it in that folder of the new folder, so that you'll always have it, so you won't have to go back to it. The other is, make sure you put gospel, pop, rock, or whatever, and then you, when you're ready to pull up your rock songs to pitch, you can do that. But very important what I just said. It's covering you, it's covering the writer. I mean, I've written with a lot of people in town, and I have written with some great writers, I've written with some awesome people, but then with a lot of writers that I've written with, there have been some people that are real shabby. And if you don't have that to prove that you're writing, then you're lost. You know what I'm saying? If you do a copyright in Washington, D.C., that's the best thing to do. And that's what I did with that shabby person that I'm talking about. I have it copyrighted. There's 4 of us on the song. They tried to put another writer on the song, a producer of the artist, and he wasn't on the song. He had nothing to do with the song. And so, and it's one of my biggest cuts. And so I'm saying that because I care. I want you guys not to drop into something a hole that you can't get out of, and find out years to come that you wrote this song with this person. They get a cut. They get a major deal. They cut it, and then all of a sudden somebody says that you're not a part of that song. It's happened. I've had a writer that we wrote the song, and then he went, unbeknownst to me, I wrote with another writer, and I said, I wrote with that guy. Let me pull out the song. I pulled out the song. He goes, wait a minute. I wrote that song with him. I said, you did? How'd that work? And what we did is we went back to the date that I wrote it with and listened to it, and he said, I'll be doggone if he didn't pull that song to the table, had me write on it, and not told me about you. And these things happen. So make sure that you guys cover yourself. The other thing is, if you're a writer and you want to network, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. CSAC, you have to be invited. BMI and ASCAP, you can go and say, hey, listen, I want to be a writer for you guys, and they'll give you information. You can open a publishing company with those guys. I went to ASCAP. As a writer, I started having my stuff critiqued by Ralph Murphy. Ralph Murphy is huge in the business, and he would say, go back and do it again. So I would go back and I'd bring him a bunch more songs. He said, go back and do it again. Bunch more songs. Go back and do it again. One day I came in, he listened to the songs, and he said, man, I think you're there. And then he got on the phone, and he got off the phone, he wrote down a name, and he slid it to me. And as I lifted it up, I couldn't believe it. It was Blake Shelton. He set me up with Blake Shelton to write. And so what I'm saying is, you need to get you a representative at ASCAP or BMI or CSAC and start bringing songs into them. Network and get a representative that will work with you, and that's a good thing. The other thing, what has really set me up is Facebook. Facebook is a huge tool. I have hooked up with so many artists. Marty Raven, William Michael Morgan. There's a lot more that I've hooked up with. Also, I was running. Anybody watch UK X Factor? Anybody? Me either. Until the other night, I was watching it. It's UK. It's in England. You watch that? Did you see He Knows She Knows? Where he what do you call it when you ask somebody to marry him? Proposal. He proposed to her. Did you see that one?
I think we did.
He Knows She Knows. I was sitting there and I was watching it, and I said, man, I need to write with those guys. They captured UK's heart. He proposed to her. They got 4 yeses. He proposed to her, and I got on Facebook. I messaged him. When they got back from the show, they hit me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, said, yes, we want to write. The next day I wrote with him as I'm writing. Know that he proposed to her, and she said yes on TV. And as we wrote, I wrote a verse and a chorus with him, sent it to him, and I said, what do you guys think? And he said, man, I love it. And she can't talk right now. She's bawling, but she wants this as our wedding song.
Oh, wow.
Is that amazing?
Yep.
That's Facebook for you. But, and be wary, like I said, who you hook up with, but Facebook is huge. I mean, it's a network connection. Matter of fact, I just sent him something before we came. And I asked him to write before we even met. And that's what I do. I probably hit about a good 10 to 20 people a month on Facebook. I'll listen to their talent. Matter of fact, I just got another cut with America's Got Talent, and there's another artist group of men on there that are just incredible. Lincoln Bridge, and I hit them up to write. Well, their manager got back with me. Now I'm going to be writing with their manager, and so Facebook, use it. Yes.
I have a question about that, if I may.
Yes.
What about posting songs on Facebook? Like you have a new song, you just demoed it.
Right. Well, let me just say this.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of the biggest writers, and I also talked to one of the biggest producers in Nashville about the same thing, unbeknownst to the other guy when I talked to him. And they were like, people come here and they want to be writers, but they don't know how it works. Do you know, to get cuts, you have to do whatever it takes. In other words, you write a song. You've got that blood, sweat, and tears of a song, and you know it's a great song. So you pull it out to another writer that you know he's got a major deal coming. So he writes this major deal, and he gets this major deal, and he goes into a room and plays it for a guy, and he loves it. But this guy is an uprighter, and he can make this happen. So we allow him to be on the song just because he's that upper grade writer.
Right.
Well, understand those are the things that you have to do 9 times out of 10 to get a major cut. People that don't have nothing to do with the song, it's all politics. It's all who can open the door for me. Understand, if you're not willing to get your song out just to get your song out, you're not willing to play. If you're worried about it getting stolen, copyright your song in Washington, D.C. Poor
Right.
man's copyright, sending it back to yourself, whatever. It's not going to help you. But if you want to do it the right way, go ahead and do it in Washington, D.C. I can tell you right now, and I think that you can vouch for it, is that publishers won't even copyright all their songs until they get a cut. You know what I'm saying? If there's so many songs in a catalog of one writer, they're not going to copyright all those songs. So they send those songs out to whoever, knowing that somebody could do this or that they could say this, and that's why you have copyright people saying we don't take unsolicited material,
Right.
and that's why I don't take unsolicited material, because I don't want somebody to come back and say, "Oh, that was my song 5 years ago." You know what I'm saying? But when you gotta play the game. The game is you gotta get into the game to play it.
Yeah.
And if your songs are sitting in a drawer and they're not doing any good sitting in a drawer, you're not playing the game. You're not going out there and taking that stand. If you're worried about your songs being stolen,
I don't worry too much about that, but you think it's a good idea to post them on Facebook? Because I do that once they're demoed.
I post my songs all the time on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And I do this too, and I forgot to tell you, when you write with that person, if I wrote with you,
Yeah.
after that song is written, I put it right into email. I send it to your email. That stamp's showing that you got it.
Oh,
The
right.
date stamp showing you got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it all shows that connection.
Yeah.
Then I'll always say this, when I'm done with a writer, I'll say, "Great writing with you on this."
Yeah.
And he'll say, "Man, it was an awesome time," or something like that. And that shows that we wrote it together.
Yeah.
And it covers him, it covers me, and it covers anybody else that thinks that they're going to try to take in. And let me just say this. I don't treat a song like a song. I treat it like land. If you write a song with me, that's our baby. That's our land. Nobody comes in our land unless they know. You don't come into my house unless I know about it. And my wife says no, nobody comes in my house. You see what I'm saying? So basically what's going on is, if I write a song with you and I take it down to Warner Brothers, I play it for an artist or I play it for a writer, and the writer goes, "Man, I love that song. I think I could be a part of that. Make it better." Well, then I would have to come to you. You'd have to say yes to it. I'd have to say yes to it. If it was a no, then it's a no. If it's a yes, it's a 33 1/3 split right down the middle. And basically that's the way it is. And that's vice versa for the writers. And I'll discuss that before I write with a new writer. And it's common sense. But like I said, I'll go back to that time where I wrote with a writer, and that writer said, "Well, I wrote that song." And then we went straight to the folder and we saw it, and he was like, "Man, how could he do that to you?" And then we both called the writer and said, da, 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 da. He's like, "Oh, I forgot." I'm like, "Yeah, right. You don't. But anyway, because I sent him an email showing that we wrote the song too. So you know, that's how I treat my songs. I don't treat them like songs. I treat them like land. The other thing is my land is going to be into my family, and you know. So I hope that helped.
Very much.
So
Very
is
much.
it a waste of time to go to like Taxi and those places?
Taxi is a good organization if you want to, if you have the money and you have the time. Taxi has done a lot of good things for a lot of people. If you have the money and you have the time. If you sign up with Taxi and you don't get a cut in the next 2 years and you're upset, well, that third year you could get a cut. There's people I know that have done that, and then they, boom, you know. But it's whatever
I'm
you,
like way over there in North Carolina.
yeah.
Nashville,
But
you could get around a lot here, not there.
James, on that one, I've heard, just my experience from people talking about text and the usage of that, it seems to be more effective for film and TV. I haven't heard a whole lot of like, you know,
Absolutely.
Toby Keith cut my song for text, and I haven't heard any of that. So those are the ones probably to be.
They get a lot of songs they're asking for, but I see a lot of TV.
yeah, mostly TV, and also movies. Exactly.
Yeah, I just haven't heard of any major
Because
pitches.
they'll
that
say
have
you have to
been
own
successful.
100% of it or don't even bother.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story real quick. The other thing I wanted to tell you was, so I went over the ASCAP, went over Facebook. I want to go over two more things if you don't mind. I had people tell me, you know, in writing sessions, I just don't like this song. I think we should stop writing the song. And if the other writer says, I don't know, I like this song. If you both agree and you want to stop, stop. If one writer says, I think there's something there, continue. Because I wrote with a guy, Randy Thomas, and he was writing a polygram. And he was late. And he came in and he said, James, I'm sorry for being late. He said, but all of a sudden, and my contract was up a tree, all of a sudden they want to sign me again. He goes, James, you're not going to believe it. We wrote a song, and 5 major artists want to record it. 5. Just unbelievable. And they did. Kenny Rogers, Raven Brothers, Bob Carlisle, and there were 2 other. And it was just incredible. He said, James, he goes, I'm going to tell you something. We were writing the song. We got a verse and a chorus done. And I was saying, no, I don't want to write this no more. I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think, you know, let's move on to another. He said, he said, Tom, he said, listen. He said, I believe in this song. Let's write it. And they wrote it. And you know what it was? Butterfly Kisses.
Wow.
So if
Bob
you
Carlisle,
both,
I guess.
yes, Bob Carlisle. And he wrote with Bob, Randy Thomas. And if you both want to quit, quit. But if one says yeah, give him that doubt. Give him that benefit of the doubt and continue. So that's the other thing I wanted to say about. But the other one thing I want to say is there are organizations like Amanda Williams. She has a great, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm
Hillbilly.
What,
Yeah.
Hillbilly?
Hillbilly culture,
Hillbilly Culture.
songwriters.
Amanda Williams and I go back. She's a lovely girl, and she's a great writer. She just got a huge cut with Garth Brooks. She's well known in Nashville. She treats everybody with dignity and honor, and she has a.
She has a website, and if you join it for $95, you can you can get help with your songs on it. You're on there with your
And
songs.
what's it called?
It's called Songwriting in Business.
Yeah. If you want more information, go to her. Talk about this. Go to Amanda Williams on Facebook or whatever. You guys, you won't be sorry. But she had a huge get together with all writers. There was like probably 500 writers in this thing. Were you there when Amanda did that? And there's this guy, and they were all over this guy in this thing. I forgot the workshop, the writers thing. I forgot what they call it.
Retreat.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it was here in Nashville,
Yeah.
and this guy was like, or barned or whatever it's called by different people. And so after they left him, I went up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm James Breedwell." He goes, "Oh, you're James Breedwell?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're the writer, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You want to go upstairs and write?" I said, "Yeah," just like that. I didn't know the guy from Adam. So we went upstairs and we wrote. He said, you mind if I bring a writer with me? One of my writers? And I said, no. So me and Tom Hirschman and him went upstairs and wrote. We wrote a killer song, and by the next day they already had it in the studio demoing it, and he asked me if I'd come back that morning before everything and write another one. And then he had another writer there. And I said, yeah, that's great. So we wrote another good song. And then it was over. Everything was gone, everybody had left, I went home, and I got a call from him. He said, there's a party going on, and I'd love for you to come to the party. And I said, okay. So I went to the party. It was a pool kind of party. There was outside cooking and everything. He leaned down to me and he whispered in my ear. And he said, give me 2 months and I'm going to change your life. And I said, really? And so what happened was I went home, and less than 2 weeks I got a call from Tom Hirschman asking me if I wanted to write for BMG.
Wow.
BMG is one of the biggest publishers in the world. And he asked me, he said, James, he goes, we have a company that's under BMG. My check that I got is BMG Publishing. And they want us to write 10 songs for an album. And I said, absolutely. So I wrote 10 songs with this album, and then it was done. And it was incredible. It was a major door open. The reason I say all that is to say this. Get in contact with Amanda Williams, join their group, or join other groups that have that kind of atmosphere, where there's going to be major people coming in that will help you in your songwriting, and then go up to them, give them your card, talk to them. Don't just sit. Don't be afraid. You're here to make a move. I'm a maker, I'm a shaker, I'm a breaker in Nashville. I just want to do, I don't want to sit. I want to be that songwriter of the year. And a lot of people will take me wrong the way I do things, but I don't do anything out of the ordinary. I just do a lot of it, you know? And so that's what I wanted to tell you all.
Wow. Thank you.
Those are all good points, especially recording your sessions.
That is the number one thing. If you don't get anything out of here, get to cover yourself as a writer, and start recording your sessions, and start getting all the information up front, and at the end make sure that you put down the song, you put the information with the song, then have just the song in the folder, put the information with the song and the session, and then the main thing is email the song, the information of the song, and the lyric sheet to the next writer.
I started doing that since we started writing, and it saved me in 2 critical situations.
Communication?
Yeah, that
What is it?
miscommunications, whatever you want to talk about, but having that recorded session saved me from some embarrassing moments for the other person.
And I
Nice.
just want to say this too. I've got my you just thing has not even said yet. We will be able to tell you next year what's happening. It's already done. I mean, it's a definite, and we're so excited about it. If you knew what I was talking about, you would go, you're kidding. You cannot be that blessed. But I am that blessed. And and we're just so thankful. But I